Okay, we are live. Um, so let's all get to know each other a little better before we jump into the content here. If you're just joining, I have a few questions in the chat for you to answer about yourself, your name and title or company, or if you're a student, what school or program you're with, where you're from or where you're tuning in from, something you love, and a quirk, something that's uniquely weird or different about you. I will go first. So my name is Jenna. I am a developer advocate at IBM. I am currently working from home in Detroit. Something I love are my dogs. I have little Yorkies. And something that's uniquely different about me, I have a slight obsession with tuna. And if it's on the menu anywhere I go, I feel compelled to order it. If I order something else, I wish I ordered the tuna. And I also judge everything else on the menu based on how well they prepare their tuna. Let's take a look here. We have Sharon, former IBMer, who still bleeds blue. Very nice. We have Gloria from Austin, Texas, IBM business partner. Let's see, we have Jacques joining from Miami, Florida. Let's see, we have Matt from Chicago, also a dog lover. Looks like he has half Pomeranian, half Husky. Very nice. Interesting. Matt has a certification so he can do underwater IT work. Very interesting. Very cool. We have Gary in New Jersey, Tatiana in New York. Hello. Carl from Accenture from the Philippines, looks like in Bloomington, Minnesota. Loves playing the ukulele. Very nice. Evan, technical project manager with IBM, originally from New Orleans. Loves everything New Orleans. Very nice. Victor, electronics engineer, also in the Detroit area. Very cool. Like to listen to Jacob Collier. Sarah Johnson, startup founder, lived in Virginia the longest since 1990. Very cool. Mastering of the art of the pivot. That's very, very important, especially in a time like now. So you have George, aeronautic engineering grad, coaching football in Detroit. Very cool. All right, let's see. And then we have Dave here, out of Brooklyn, former client, SCP, San Francisco and Houston. Yes, beaches anywhere are always good. Hello, Hugo from Portugal. Interested in machine learning. Very cool. It's nice to meet all of you. As we get started here. There we go. Here we go. All right, come on, internet, don't die on me now. All right. So just for reference, I will be sharing all of this with you at the end as well, making sure you all have access to the slides and the resources. If you would like to follow along, feel free to do that. Just one second. So again, my name is Jenna. I'm a developer advocate at IBM. I Currently, I'm in Detroit working from home. I've been working in Austin for 2 years, and I just joined the New York City team, so I'm kind of all over the place. I really like the Cloud API developer tools. I've been playing around with that a lot. I like to collect swag from conferences and workshops. Um, See all the cool uh, tooling that people are always coming out with, especially geared toward developers. I've been working primarily in React, JavaScript, and PHP. I've also been dabbling in Python for the last year or two. And I really like to put together workshops for people, teach you something new, something you can add to your tool belt, and hopefully take to a new opportunity with you. Um, I want to, so the first thing that we're going to need to do for those of you that want to follow along is you're going to need to create an IBM Cloud account. If you don't already have one, you will need to sign up. So for those of you who have an IBM Cloud account, if you want to go ahead and log in, I am going to share a link for I'm going to share a link for those that don't have an IBM Cloud account. I need to update this link quickly. I apologize. Okay. If you have any issues, let me just double check to make sure that this link, been having some issues with my internet, so just 1 second. So this is the URL for Cloud Summit. Let me just make sure in the chat here. Just want to update this. All right, I need to. No, apologize. I needed to update this link for you all. All right, perfect. So if you have not already signed up for an IBM Cloud account, this is the link for you to do that. I want to share with you quickly here. Oh, okay. You're going to create an IBM Cloud free light tier account, and that looks like this. You come to a Cloud signup page. And again, this is the link that you'll use to sign up for an IBM Cloud account. And my computer is having some slow issues, so let me just give it a minute. If you already have a Cloud account, you're going to go ahead and log in. Oh boy. Okay, let me open this up somewhere else where this will actually work. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so this is the link to sign up. If you want to copy that down. And we're going to be learning today is a little bit about Watson Studio's AutoAI. I'm sure some of you have played around with some other available features in Watson Studio, probably visual recognition or object detection. So what we're going to be looking at is creating custom models with the AutoAI feature. And the example we're going to be using is we have some data that's data concerning survivors of the Titanic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create your instance of Watson Studio, how to create a new project. I'm going to show you how to create and run your first experiment. We'll feed it some data. In this instance, we're going to be giving it data sets from the survivors of the Titanic. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom model where AutoAI is going to generate a predictive model that's going to predict the probability of survival based upon the Titanic data sets that we will give it. Once we've trained and created our new model, we'll be able to give it new and unaccounted for data. I'll be taking data actually from some of you on the call, and we will be, we'll see if based on your data and your choices that we input into the model, whether you would have survived or not. So you might be thinking, I don't know AI, I don't know machine learning. That's okay. What AutoAI is doing and what the purpose that it's serving for all of us, whether you're a data scientist or a developer, or you're just playing around, you know, starting to do some of your first projects and you want to learn some new technology. AutoAI is machine learning made simple for you. So you don't need to have any background in machine learning. If you're a developer and you want to incorporate this into projects, this allows you to incorporate your own custom machine learning models, and without having to manually create your own models using Jupyter notebooks or creating your own algorithms. This is going to do hours and weeks and months of data science work for you, so that you can just use your model in the way that you see fit in your project. Get tonight's stuff. If you already have a Cloud account, you can go ahead and log into that. How do we get tonight's stuff later? Okay, so I'm going to send out all of these materials in a follow-up email, but also the slide that I shared that I will share at the end as well has a link to this actual slide. So you will have access to these slides with the links on it to take you to the tutorial and all of the resources. How do I avoid biases in the data? Great question, George. We are going to focus more on creating a custom model and working with Watson Studio, but we do sessions from time to time, specifically on ethical AI and bias in machine learning and AI. So one of the things that I can give you a shorter answer is it's really important what data you're using, right? So making sure that you're looking for data in different areas, from different sources, and that you're taking time to look at your data and consider where it's coming from and who's included in the data, right? So that's depending on what data you need for what purpose you need to create custom models for, right? It can be a million different things, but making sure that you have a diverse data set, right? So if you're, and it's involving people, making sure that the data sets are including men and women and people of different demographics, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses. So really taking the time to look at your data and consider, is everyone and anyone that doesn't look like me included in this data set as well, right? Is the short and sweet answer to at least get started. Okay, so I want to show you we'll go through a few slides and kind of talk about what we're going to be doing, and then I think it's easier to understand in practice when we get your hands dirty, get into Watson Studio and actually look at what's going on, and we can look at the trained data sets as well. So thank you. So Dave has included an article in the chat for on mitigating bias. Looks like it's an IBM research article. I can add that to the slides as well, so you all have access to that as well. So you can think of machine learning as a sophisticated if-else statement, right? So we're feeding it all of this data, right? And what does this look like? So for those of you that have never worked with data before, what does this look like? So what we're doing is we're feeding data in the form of a .csv file, right? So what we have is different columns with different fields and different pieces of data. So for instance, the data we're going to be working with is going to be given the data from passengers. So we're going to know what gender they were, if they had children with them or family members with them, how much their ticket was, which tier of ticket they bought. So essentially, once we've generated this model that's going to be able to make these predictions for us, it's going to, as we feed it new data, right? I'll give it one of your names and your age and whether or not you normally travel with family members. What it'll then do is take that data and it will say, if this is the person's name, if this is their gender, if they have a family member or not with them, if they purchased a first class ticket, let's predict the probability that this person would survive based on all of the other data that it's been given. And we'll take a look at what that looks like as well. So machine learning is a way to make data useful, right? So I don't know if you've ever looked at Google Scholar or Prattle. There's lots of data out there, and it's not getting put to good use if it's just sitting, right? But it's very difficult to make data useful. So the great thing about Watson Studio is that it does all of the data science training and hyperparameterization optimization for you. So you can just worry about the implementation of the data that you want to use it for. So one thing I'm going to share with you here so that you can take a look at what this looks like. So I'm just waiting for this to open for me. So I want to share this with you briefly. So, yes, so there's a question, Watson AI selects the appropriate AL/ML method. Can you expert override? So you can go in and adjust the data. I will show you that. What I want to share briefly before we do that is I want to share with you what this looks like. So this is the data that we're actually going to be feeding into Watson Studio. This is the data we're going to be giving to uploading into our experiment to run our experiment for Watson Studio to test different hyperparameters to optimize our custom model. So essentially, when we're looking at, this data that we're giving to machine learning, we're uploading to create machine learning models and that we're working with, like, what does this data look like, right? Like that can be an overwhelming question to think about if you've never seen this before. So this is what this data looks like in this instance. So this is our Titanic data. So our survived field is a binary classification. So we have either 0 or 1, right? So either someone survived or they didn't survive. We have which class ticket they purchased. So this was a 3rd class ticket. This was the 1st class ticket. This is a 2nd class ticket. Their sex, whether they were male or female, their age, how many siblings or spouses they had on board, how many parents or children they had on board, and the fare that they paid, right? So what we're going to be doing is giving this data, we're going to be uploading this into Watson Studio, running our experiment, and then AutoAI is going to optimize our machine learning model, test different hyperparameters, and then what it's going to do is generate a custom model that we'll be able to input new data in this form, right? So what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to say, I, Jenna, purchased a 2nd class ticket. I'm female. I'm age 33. I have 1 sibling or spouse on board. I have no children, and I paid $20 for my fare, right? And we'll be able to test it out on any of you that are interested as well. So you can see Watson Studio at work and your new custom model at work in creating this new custom model for you that then you can utilize utilize in your own project on feed it new data to get a new prediction. Let's see. How much data wrangling needs to be done ahead of time for Watson AI to work? Not that much. So I have run this workshop at a few hackathons this year, and college university hackathons. And people were able to take data directly from the World Health Organization, from Google Scholar, from Craggle, and take raw data directly from sources and upload it and generate custom models that were very accurate, and a lot of them they had really cool predictions. They were able to decide which what they wanted to predict with the data and customize it to that, and it quote unquote worked very well. Okay, let's back up. So now you've seen kind of what this data that we're talking about looks like, right? Especially if you're a developer and you haven't worked with data before, it's hard to picture what that actually looks like. So AI is just intelligence without human intervention, right? So the goal is what we call intelligence, being able to come to the most predictive conclusion, the best solution, best answer without too much human intervention based on the data that it has. So Watson is a question answer system, right? So we're feeding it data to ask a question, and then we're receiving a response or an answer back from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you so that you can see this in action. I think that's the most helpful way to learn. So I'm just going to open this up and share this with you so you can see. So, oops. Sorry, my computer keeps freezing. Okay. So you can use the link that I've sent you. It will take you here. You can create a new cloud account. This is where you should be. If you already have a cloud account, you can log in here. So I'm going to log into my personal account so that you can see what this looks like. Okay. So when you log in, you'll be able to see your dashboard. So you'll be able to see your dashboard, and then you have a few ways to create a new instance of Watson Studio if you don't have it already. So first thing, we can look up here, Watson Studio, right? We have Watson Studio here. I have an instance already, which is this developer advocacy. So you can see this here. Another way to get to Watson Studio as well, so you can click on the catalog. Services, AI, here's Watson Studio here. If you already have an instance, you can also check if you click in this hamburger menu here, this resource list. So this will show you any instances that I have a cloud object storage instance provisioned. I have continuous delivery from another project, and this is my Watson Studio Developer Advocacy instance here, right? So what we're gonna do is you're gonna click, when you open up Watson Studio, if you don't already have an instance of Watson Studio available, some of you do probably from one of Pooja's workshops or one of the San Francisco team's workshops. You will click to create a new instance of Watson Studio. You can give your service a name. So this is what you would see here. Give it a service name, choose a region or location. I usually just select Dallas, which should already be selected as default. You don't need to give it any tags, and you can click create, right? And then you should be able to see your instance of Watson Studio in your resource list. So I'm going to click on my instance here. And then I'm going to click get started. And feel free to follow along while you do this as well, if you would like. Maybe later. Cool. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is create a new project, right? So you can select create a project here. And we're going to select create an empty project. So as you can see here, it says the new AutoAI experiment tool is a fully automated approach to building classification models, right? So we are going to create an empty project. We're going to call this predict future with AutoAI. And then the next thing you're going to need to do is select a cloud object storage instance. So I'm going to see here. Go. You don't need to give it a description. I'll do this. Let me give mine a description. Okay. Create. Just give this a second. Here we go. You shouldn't have this issue. I have multiple accounts on here, so it need to make sure that it doesn't switch back. Okay. So I have my instance of object storage here that I've already created. However, if you haven't created a project in Watson Studio, you're going to need to create a new instance of object storage. You will click Add here. And then you will select the free light option and click Create. And then you can just give it a service name here. It does generate a default name. So you don't need to change anything in here, and click Confirm. Maybe later. Cool. So I have now created a new project. The next thing that I'm going to want to do is upload my data sets. So this is included in the resources that I will be sending to you. So essentially, there is a link to a CSV file that you will download. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here to these little squares here with this one, right? Zeros and ones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find and add the data set. So I can browse here, have my downloads here. Here's my data set. Open that up. Okay, so the upload has been successful. So now I'm going to want to click on Assets so that I can verify the data was loaded correctly. So let me take a look here. Okay, perfect. So this is my data set here. So here, this may answer the question we had earlier. You can refine your data here. You can download your data from here. So if you're working with someone else and you want to be able to get data from them or from the experiment that you're running or your project, you can also remove it here. And you can upload as many data sets as you have your object storage will support. So I could upload 10 data sets here if I wanted to. So I verified that the data was uploaded correctly. Now let's take a look at some AI, right? So we can click on the Add to Project button and click Auto AI Experiment. So we want to create a new Auto AI experiment, right? So we can click here to do that. we can select AutoAI experiment. So we're building classification and regression models. All right, so here's a new AutoAI experiment. So we're gonna do this from blank. We're not gonna do this from a sample. So I'm gonna give it the same name. Associated Watson Machine Learning Services. So we also need to, we need to add a Watson Machine Learning Service by clicking Associate a Machine Learning Service Instance. So let's do that here. So here's this free light tier option, right? So we're instantiating a new machine learning instance here. Scroll down, click create. Again, we have a the region is Dallas, plan is light. All of this is defaulted, so you can just click confirm. There we go. And then you'll click reload. So then this is, once you click reload, it'll show the Watson Machine Learning instance that you just created. I'm gonna add a description here. Click create. And AutoAI only needs to be pointed to a data set and a column to predict in the data set. So what we're going to do here is we're going to choose our Titanic.csv after clicking the select from project button here. So we're just going to point AutoAI to the data set and a column to predict in the data set. So here's our data set that we uploaded here. We're going to select this and we're going to select our asset. So we want to select the column to predict Titanic survivors. So survived, as we saw earlier, is our binary classifier. So it takes only values of 0 for not survived or 1 for survived. So the quality metric is automatically selected for you. The ROC AUC is the standard quality metric for binary classification problems. So we're going to select survived here. This is what we want. And then we're going to click run our experiment. Okay, so our AutoAI experiment is running. So this is the most time-consuming part. But again, if we take a look at what's happening here, so AutoAI is going to predict the survivors of the Titanic, right? So first we loaded the data sets, Titanic.csv. Then we selected the survived column with our binary classifier. Depending on the type of variable we want to predict, AutoAI automatically selects the metric to optimize. So in this case, since this is a binary classification problem, survived or not survived, the metric we want to use is the ROC AUC. This is one of the most important evaluation metrics for checking any classification model's performance. So now let's take a look at what's going on here. So we can see with the animations here, while it's training the data, So behind the scenes, the tool is splitting the data into training and holdout sets. So it then applies threefold cross-validation to evaluate the viability of numerous estimators in order to predict new and unseen data that we're going to give it once we've finished creating our model. So next, the tool generates pipelines using hyperparameters. So as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3 pipelines. So we've already generated 2 pipelines. We're working on the third one here. So the tool is generating pipelines using hyperparameters, hyperparameter tuning and feature engineering for each estimator. Each of those fields that we saw on the previous screen. Under normal circumstances, this is something that would take hours or weeks, depending on your data sets. But with AutoAI, we've trained our first two pipelines in a matter of seconds, right? So we've only been working on training our model for maybe a minute, and we're already working on training our fourth pipeline. We can click here as well and see the pipeline comparison, right? So our model name, accuracy, area under ROC, log loss, precision, recall. So we're going to stay here at the pipeline comparison. We can swap these views as well. So we have the relationship map and the progress map. So here we have XGB classifier, pipeline 1, we have our hyperparameter optimization. For pipeline 2, feature engineering, pipeline 3, and our hyperparameter optimization again, resulting in pipeline 4. Then we have random forest classifier here, resulting in pipeline 5, more hyperparameter optimization, resulting in pipeline 6. Working with AutoAI is doing more feature engineering under the hood now, working on pipeline 7. And we can swap these views here. So the system is going to continue to run until the process is finished. And then we'll be able to select a pipeline to see which estimator was used, such as logistic regression or XGBoost. So we'll give it just a minute to finish here. Does anyone have any questions at this point while we're waiting for our custom model to finish being trained?
I have a question.
Yes.
You loaded a data set. It was called a trained data set. But what if we have train testing data set? How do we do that?
Yes. So with the data that was uploaded, so what AutoAI did with the data is it saved. Yeah. So it saved some of that data and put it aside as a holdout set. So the AutoAI is separating the data that you feed it into training and holdout sets. So you don't need to manually do that.
Oh, so you're saying you don't need a testing data set. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so it will take your data and it will separate that into training data and a holdout set for you. So it will automatically separate that data so that you have testing data automatically. So you don't have to,
I see. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's swap here and see where we're at. Perfect. So it looks like we have 8 pipelines here. So we uploaded our data. So the AutoAI read the data set. It's just as you were asking here. So it split the holdout data, right? So it took some of that data and broke that out of the data that we gave it and held some of that as our holdout set. Then it read the training data, which was the rest of the data that we gave it. It prepared it for pre-processing, and then it went. We moved over to model selection here. So started with the XGBoost classifier, different hyperparameter optimization and feature engineering, and through each step of the process, it created a new pipeline, as we can see down here. So we see here, we have, was selected the top algorithms to train and test the pipelines. So the AutoAI experiment selected the top 2 algorithms for us based on our data source. So we didn't have to tell it which algorithms it needed to optimize our data. It was able to determine that for us and take care of that. So if we see here, we have our XGB classifier, right? So here we can see, oops. Sorry about that. Let me go back to this is our experiment. So just quickly in your projects here, this is what this looks like since I've clicked over here. So we have our, this is what your AutoAI project will look like. We have our cloud object storage here. It shows how much of it we've used. You can create your README and Markdown here. Let's look at our assets. So this is our data set that we used. This is our AutoAI experiment that we created. So if you see here, you see here in our assets, it is complete. So while it was running, this said running. The status is now completed. So we have a check mark and it's completed. The model type is binary classification. And this was last modified just now. Okay, so our top algorithms here, we have our XGBoost classifier. So our training set was 90%. AutoAI performed a 3-fold cross-validation. And as you see here, 10% was held as our holdout data. And then our other top algorithm, there we go, was the random forest classifier. So again, we have 90% training set, 3-fold cross validation of our data, and 10% was held for our holdout set. So here's our leaderboard. So we've created, we have 8 pipelines that our AutoAI experiment has created for us. So AutoAI has just trained 8 pipelines in a matter of minutes. So we can now select a pipeline to see which estimators were used, such as logistic, regression, or XGBoost. So let's click on our leading pipeline here, our pipeline 1. I'm sorry, pipeline 8 is our first ranked pipeline. It has 83.8% accuracy. And it shows the enhancements we have here, and the build time was 55 seconds. So let's take a look at this pipeline. So we can see which estimator was used. We can see the ROC curve here. We can take a look at the model evaluation measures. So the accuracy, we can see the holdout score and the cross-validation score. We can see the area under the ROC curve, the precision, the recall, our F1 measure, the average precision, and the log loss. So we can actually take a look at this confusion matrix here as well. So here's where we can drill down into the quality metrics. So the ROC, AUC confusion matrix, precision recall curve, and we can even review the model information to see the features and the degrees of importance. So in this case, the most important feature to predict Titanic survivors was the gender of the passenger. So we can look at the confusion matrix here. This is our binary classifier. This was our predicted, survived and not survived, the percent correct that our model was able to predict. So we were able to predict people that the model was able to predict who would not survive, 90.2% correct. People who did survive, 76.3% correct, and then our overall percent correct here. We can also look at our precision recall curve. And we can take a look at the model information. So our target, what we wanted to determine was whether someone survived or did not, correct? So our target here, our label target is survived. The model type here is our random forest classifier. Number of features was 14. And the number of evaluation instances was 89. So in this case, the most important feature to predict Titanic survivors, let's see. So we can look at all of the new features here, original features, and the transformation. And we can look at feature importance here. So we have age, which class ticket they've purchased, their sex, and what we were looking at here. Sorry, there's a question in the chat. The accuracy score is a composite evaluation of the model. I believe so. Could we do a predictive model? Yeah, so I'm working on a few variations of this workshop so that we can look at it in other ways of practice. But that will be coming soon, actually, when we do our machine learning masterclass in May. So we can come back here. So these are the algorithms used here, random forest classifier. Let's look at our pipeline ranked number 3 with our XGBoost classifier. We can also take a look at this. So our model accuracy was 85.4%. Take a look at our confusion matrix. Precision recall curve, right? Model information. We can look at feature importance. So our pipeline 1, which determined sex as our highest, the field of sex having the highest degree of importance. This ended up ranking 3rd in our pipelines that the AutoAI experiment generated. So we can go back and look at our experiment here. So Watson Studio AutoAI's completing complex analysis that couldn't have been done faster or easier. So we simply selected the data and column to predict, right? So we uploaded a data set, selected which data sets we wanted to run our experiment. We selected which column we wanted to predict, and AutoAI trained 8 pipelines based on 3 unique estimators. So all that remained for us to do was to choose the best pipeline and deploy. We can deploy it as a web-based service for use in production. So what I want to show you here is creating a custom model in Watson Studio is all fine and good, but what do we do with this, right? Like how can this help you develop in your own applications? So I want to take you back and show you where you can do that. So now that you have this model, right, and we have one AutoAI experiment, you can have many, you can try different data sets and run different experiments using different data sets, as many as you would like, as you have object storage available for. What I want to show you here, though, is deployments. So assets, just 1 second. Okay. Okay, so as you can see here, I have a number of experiments that I've run here. Just 1 second. Okay. So after we've created our model, we can actually feed it new data and test it. They've moved a few things around in Watson Studio in the last week. So just bear with me quickly. Okay. Sorry about that. They've changed the UI of Watson Studio. So let me just take a look here. And if I will, I'm going to update in the slides as well where to access this, but essentially, let me show you what this looks like since they seem to have moved it. My apologies. They've updated this in the last 2 days. I think for Think conference next week. Let me see if we have it here. I don't have it here. All right, let me do my best to find this for you. My apologies. So we have for you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do for you, since some things have been moved around, is I'm going to add step-by-step slides, step-by-step screenshots within the slides that I'm sharing with you, showing you how to deploy your model. So then within our deployments here, since it has moved for some reason, you'll be able to click on your deployment here. And especially if you're a developer, this is going to really, really, really make things very easy for you. So we have your deployment here, the asset type, the name, machine learning service, when it was created. And this is very important. So the information down here at the bottom, your model name and ID, you are going to need this. So we can take a look at the implementation here. So we have your scoring endpoint here. We have very simple instructions on creating a bearer token. The machine learning instance ID, again, it will show you here where to find that. And then the content. So this is going to be, the request body is going to be sent in a JSON format. And if you look at the bottom here, we have some code snippets available for you. So we have curl, we have Java. Oh, there we go. Okay. We have Java, we have JavaScript, we have Python, and we have Scala. So these are code snippets of exactly what you need to add to your application in order to make and receive requests and responses from your custom machine learning model that you just created. So this is going to be very, very helpful. I'm working on building an application to show you from an IDE how to implement. So I appreciate your patience. I am going to be demonstrating this when we do our machine learning masterclass. we've had a lot of changes recently, so I'm still working on finishing that. However, the next time we run through this, I will walk through how to create your custom learning model, and then I will show you where in your code to add your code snippets so that you can send and receive requests and responses from your model. However, let's say you just want to test and see what kind of responses you're getting back from your model, right? We don't want to have to wait for you to add a bunch of code to your project just to find out your model is not providing you with responses, expected responses, and you have to go back and train new models, right? So that's where this testing feature comes in. It's very, very nice. So the UI is already here. Think of this as your built-in Postman. So if you were to do this in Postman, you would need to put into your request header your bearer token and send a request to your machine learning model and then wait for a response back, right? Here we can do all of that from internally within Watson Studio. You don't need to do anything external and wait for a response. We can test it right here, right from within our project. So I'm going to say, I'm going to purchase a second class ticket. My name is Jenna. I am female. I am 33. I have one spouse on board. I'll say I have 2 children on board. I'll count my dogs, and I'll say I paid $45 for my ticket. So this is the input that I'm going to be sending to my custom model that I just created with our data. And then I'm going to wait for the JSON response from the predictive model. So just give it a second here. I'll take a look at the chat. I'm going to update. So the question is, if you use for commercial purposes, how do you know when to upgrade from your free account? So if you're using it for commercial purposes, you can, when creating your instance of Watson Studio or your project, you can choose from one of the paid options. However, if you want to start with the free, when you run out of object storage and you have used up the available space and resources you have for the free light tier, you will get a notification when you log in that says, would you like to upgrade, and that you've been running out of object storage space, or whatever the case may be. So you will get a notification when you log into your account. So if we take a look here, right? So we have predictions, fields, prediction, probability, and values, right? So it looks like I have sorry, we have things freezing here. So it looks like I survived with 93.7% accuracy. So it looks like I have a, excuse me, 93.7% probable chance of having survived. Okay, just a second here. So I survived. Whew, thank goodness. So I'd like to give some of you a chance to test this out. I know you can't physically test this out because we're not doing this in person. But if any of you would like me to enter in your data to see if you would survive, feel feel free to put in the chat or unmute, and I will gladly put your information in, and we can test out this custom model we just created a little bit. So you can feel free to just unmute and let me know your name, and I can put your information in. Let's see. Let's see, Sharon, would you like to share your information? We can see if you, whether or not you would survive based on your information. Let's see, okay. So Sharon has bought a ticket to the inaugural Titanic. She wants to check it out, see what all the hype is about. So Sharon, what class ticket are you buying? First class, second class, or third class? Third, okay. And Sharon is 53, and she's traveling with an adult child. Okay. Are you traveling with any siblings or spouses? No. So we'll put 0. How much did you pay for your third class fare? $20. Perfect. Okay. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that Sharon makes it. Sorry, Sharon, to say that you have not survived. Yes, farewell. Farewell to Sharon. We had a great run. So as you can see here, Sharon did not survive. So we have 0 not survived, 1 for survived. It looks like she did not survive. And we have our prediction and our probability. So we have our prediction here and our probability here. Now, some of the things to keep in mind that resulted in what we're seeing here in this specific instance, right? So we're looking at data from the Titanic, and how did people, George took my lifeboat, probably. What are some things that we know about that time, right? So the data is all great, fine and well for us to use, but we need to understand, what does that mean? So why does gender play a role? Why does having siblings and spouses on board or children on board, right? During this time when the Titanic was hit, and it was sinking, right? So they boarded women and children on the lifeboats first. So that's why class may have doomed me. Third class may have doomed you, right? So first class passengers obviously were with women and children were boarded first. So Sharon was third class. She might not have made it. I also had 2 children / dogs with me, and I had a second class ticket. So even being a woman with a child, third class really lowered the probability that Sharon was going to be able to survive. Do we know if her adult child survived? I think the assumption is that they did not. I'm thinking the assumption is that they did not, since Sharon did not survive. We're assuming that they didn't make it on the boats. That is a good question. That is something that I'm sure we could determine with given more data. if we actually were inputting Sharon's adult child's data in here. George, would you like to take a spin on the Titanic and see how it fares out for you? Or Gwen, would you like to give it a go, purchase a ticket? Cool. So we'll add Gwen here. Second class, okay. She's gonna buy a second class ticket. No idea what dollar amount. Let's say I'm traveling alone. Okay, so Gwen's traveling by herself. She's traveling at age 11. She has no parents and no siblings, or so traveling alone. Okay, and she's gonna pay $45 for her fare. Perfect. So let's see how things fare out for you. Congratulations, you survived. We have a prediction here. So we have a 91.2% probability that you would survive. Yeah, congratulations. So I wanted to show you how this works, how you can test your custom models, how you can implement. And again, as I mentioned, I am working on building out this workshop further so that I can show you exactly how and where in a project you would add this, right? So that you're actually pulling your data to your application that you want to use your custom model in, how to create your bearer token. These are things that I will demonstrate for you, and I will have the caption screenshots as well with the descriptions when we do the master classes in May. Are there any other questions that anyone has or comments? Anything you're curious about? You can go ahead and put in the chat or unmute and ask it, and I'm happy to answer for you.
Well, it seems to me that females survive more than the males.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So in this instance, women and children were boarded onto the lifeboats before any men. So that plays a key role in our data set, because that's in the real world instance of what happened. If you were a woman or a child, you would be boarded onto the boat as well. So in this situation, if you were a man or you were a third class passenger, you probably had it was less probable that you would have been able to survive.
But are you saying those passengers from the first class, you mean they survive much better than the third class passengers, do you think?
Yes. So the third class passengers were pretty low in the boat. So they had a lot further to get to the deck. And because of where the boat hit and where the water started flowing in, the boat started filling with water from the bottom.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's great. That's great.
Yep. So it looks like Gary said he did the same Titanic analysis about 8 years ago as a Kaggle contest. It consumed several days of hair pulling to get a decent score using R. Watson Studio did all the work in a few minutes. Data science has really made a lot of automation progress in recent years. Yes. So exactly. This is meant to make your life much easier, make the lives of data scientists much easier. If one thing about development is it's all about reproducing the same results as quickly as possible, right? It's not about recreating code or reinventing the wheel. This really allows data scientists to do their jobs more quickly and easily. And two, if you are a data scientist, this allows you to spend more time cleaning your raw data and testing um, um, different features, testing different fields, and seeing what the results are without having to wait weeks or months for the results, to wait on the results from your custom model that you're waiting to finish run so that you can test. This allows Watson Studio to take care of creating the custom model from your data, applying hyperparameter optimization and feature engineering for you quickly and easily within minutes, so that then you can go back and test your data and easily go back and adjust and reiterate over your decisions and your choices easily, right? And get you to where you need to be with your data much quicker. And then it also allows developers to implement the custom models that you're creating very quickly and easily, and on both ends be able to test the response from the model by creating a testing UI where you can input your data. So let's see. In the cab, the time is taken trying different models. Okay. Yeah, so does anyone have any more questions, comments, concerns, anything I can possibly help you with? Or if maybe not now, I can find the answer to and follow up with you when I send out the resources following the workshop.
One more thing, Jenna. Do you think the auto ML results will be different from the auto AI?
The order?
ML, machine learning.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
I'm saying that the auto ML, which is machine learning, would it give us a different results as than auto AI?
Oh, so if, for instance, if you were a data scientist and you created the model on your own, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was an experiment that was run actually with AutoAI against credit reporting companies. And AutoAI predicted within 90% accuracy and actually beat out all of the other data scientists that the AutoAI was competing against. So the AutoAI training is definitely built to be more highly optimized. One thing you have to take into account is that you don't have to worry about any human error that goes into creating machine learning models by hand, right? So you're saving time. There's no human error involved in the training of the models, and it's getting a much better accuracy than data scientists creating custom models from the same data manually.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Are there any other questions?
Oh, I have one question. The
Yes.
data set, the data set that you've loaded, that was, I assume that was already cleaned, right? No missing data or something.
Yes. So the data that we used. The data that we used was already a cleaned data set. Let me just show.
So
Yeah.
the preparation, you should do that on your side manually.
Yeah. So and that's depending on varying degrees, right? So if you're a developer and you don't know a lot about data science, or let's say you're new to data science, and this is the data that we used here. So I think, and I'd mentioned this too previously. So I've ran a number of workshops and hackathons with teaching people how to use AutoAI, and they were able to pull raw data and minimally clean it in order to use AutoAI to create custom models to get the predictive models with fairly good accuracy for their hackathon projects. So with cleaning your data and having more time, AutoAI will be very helpful. Your models will turn out really well. But again, in saying that too, you can upload data, and I've uploaded data that was very minimally cleaned. I've uploaded raw data from Google Scholar and Kaggle and different sources where the fields were not clear, and what we wanted to predict was not necessarily clear. Actually trying to determine that for some of the raw data I thought would be more challenging than it was. But AutoAI also predicts suggestions as to what fields you should be choosing. It's fairly simple to use as long as you have your data in the format that you can upload as CSV, where you have defined fields. Even if your fields are not clearly defined, it can still test the data and make suggestions. But I would recommend making sure that your fields are at least defined, so that it makes it easier for you to use the AutoAI features.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Are there any other questions? So Watson Studio is going to be your one-stop shop for your AI and machine learning needs for teams. So again, I'm going to be sharing all of this with you. This is the GitHub repository that contains all of the screenshots and steps for doing this workshop at home. As I mentioned, I'm in the process of updating this. So in the next few weeks, you will see the steps for deployment, screenshots, more detailed summaries, etc. I'm working on finishing those up now. And congratulations, you have just created your first custom machine learning model using Watson Studio. You selected your data, you trained your model, and then you were able to test it, see how to deploy your model and access it from your application. So you should all feel very good. You've learned something new. It is as simple as what I've just shown you. Here's my information. I will be sharing all of these resources with you again as well. So I will follow up with an email with all of the links that you need, but just to share with you here as well. We have the IBM Developer Meetup group, where I'll be posting this and other workshops. I'm posting my content in the IBM Developer Austin meetup. You can also check out our Twitter and our Twitch channel, which we have some really cool content live stream to Twitch every day. Can we watch Think? So you know what? There are going to be master classes and master labs and sessions for Think. I will follow up with in the email that I send to you. I will be sending it out tomorrow. I will provide all of the information for Think as well, so that you can register for sessions that you would like, areas that you might be interested in. I will get all of that out to you as well as these resources. And I think masterclass is already full. Okay. So for the machine learning masterclasses, Pooja in New York and I are going to be running masterclasses throughout the month of May, outside of Think. So those will be available to you as well. And the IBM Developer Meetup groups, we have different content going on. If you look at the IBM Developer website, you can view all of our events. So you can see there different workshops that are happening in different countries and different time zones. They are done in English, so that will not be an obstacle for you. And there's a variety of people doing different topics almost daily. So if we don't have any other questions, I just want to thank you all for coming and taking the time out of your day and out of your week to come out and learn something new. I hope this was helpful for all of you, that you learned something new, that you now have something to experiment with maybe over the weekend. Take a break from, long lines at grocery stores, or trying to make sure that you're stocked up on what you need. If you're still at under stay-at-home order, they just extended us till mid-May. So please also feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. All of my social media is @jwritten. So Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, Instagram, everything is @jwritten. Feel free to connect with me. You can ask me any questions at any time. I will help you where I can, and where I can't, I will definitely direct you to someone that can help you. But again, thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a great evening and an even better weekend. All right, goodbye.